G'day and welcome to this chat about tourism and getting to Canberra. And joining me for this chat is Neil Hermes, the proprietor of Canberra Guided Tours. G'day, Neil.
Hi, Joe.
I'm Joe Prevedello, by the way. In this particular episode, Neil, we're going to just talk about how you get to Canberra. If you want to come to Canberra, visit the city, visit the region, how you actually get here from other parts of Australia and other parts of the world.
Well, Canberra's very conveniently located in Australia. One of the ways many international visitors would arrive is by plane. Canberra has a major airport which is only minutes from the centre of the city. So one of the advantages of flying into Canberra is that it literally is a 15-minute drive from the airport to all the major hotels of the central part of the city. And there are, prior to COVID, there would have been, I'm not sure, 20 or 30 flights in and out of Canberra every day from all the capitals.
That's right. So importantly, daily flights from the major capital cities in Australia, particularly Sydney and Melbourne.
Sydney and Melbourne, and with flights from Adelaide and from Perth less regularly, but you can get into Canberra any day within any sort of hour from Sydney or Melbourne by plane. And when you arrive, it's very convenient when you're here to then get to the destination. And in fact, you're so close, with our tour company, we actually pick people up from the airport and we take them out on tour virtually straight away.
Yeah, so there's services really with Virgin Australia and with Qantas.
Yep, and just started up again with Rex.
With Rex as well, Rex Airlines. So there's a little bit of competition there as well.
There is. And one of the things about Air too is that with parliamentary sittings, of course, there's often a lot more services during times when there's a lot of political activity in Canberra. So it's worth having a look to see what services, depending on where you're coming from, to see what services are available at any one time. But certainly the easy ways to get into Canberra by plane are Melbourne and Sydney within an hour or two of any time of the day.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about driving to Canberra. So before we talk about that, let's talk about exactly where we're located in Australia.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Canberra's about three and a half hours from Sydney by road. It's about 6 or 7 hours from Melbourne by road. Sydney and Melbourne are linked by the Hume Highway, and Canberra is just off the Hume Highway, linked by two smaller highways, the Federal Highway and the Barton Highway. So, and they're all those roads are high quality dual carriage roads. So if you're not used to roads in Australia, these are high quality interstate highways that link Sydney, Melbourne and Canberra. As I said, 3.5 hours or thereabouts from Sydney, 6.5 hours thereabouts from Melbourne. So very easy, safe run by car. And of course, you could depart from Sydney in a rental car or in your own car. If you're an international visitor, you could rent a car and it would be a simple matter to drive to Canberra.
Yeah, so if you were, say, an international visitor, you were in Sydney, it's a good way to sort of see a bit of the countryside as well. It's a 3-hour trip.
Yep.
You could hire a car down the highway and off you go.
That's right. And if you're a little bit more adventurous, you can take a slightly slower route from Sydney to Canberra, which would be 4 or 5 hours, which would take you down the coast and bring you up to Canberra from the east coast of Australia. And again, if you're a bit more adventurous, you could actually take that road down to Melbourne on a trip. So if you're renting your own car, you could certainly explore a bit of Australia on the way and take a couple of different routes. Let's say you were heading out from Sydney. You could drive to Canberra, drive to Melbourne, and then return to Sydney by 2 different routes through Canberra and see a lot of the fabulous landscapes of the southeast.
Should also make the point that Canberra is a relatively easy city to drive around in, isn't it?
Well, it's a very modern city, and the roads laid out in Canberra have been laid out since the 1915. So it was designed around the car. It was designed around roads. So the city is easy. The roads are in very high quality roads. So Canberra is a very simple city to drive around. It's easy to find your way about.
Yeah. Okay. So we've covered off driving. We've covered off air travel. What are the other ways you could get to Canberra?
Okay. So my wife and I love trains. And when we travel overseas, even if it's the least convenient way of getting from one point to another, we'll frequently take the train. And you'd have to say, and to be fair, the train between Sydney and Canberra is pretty slow. It's about 6 hours. I think it's about 3 hours by road. So it's a very slow route, but there is a train service every day between Sydney and Canberra. And if you enjoy train travel, especially slow train travel, that's actually an option. And there's many people that love traveling by train. So train travel is an option. It'll take you all day effectively to do the travel there and back. If you don't have a car and you want to travel by over land, the other option, of course, is a bus. And there are regular bus services, every hour out of Sydney, and so you get to travel along the highway. You don't have to drive yourself, but you get to see the landscape. So if that's something you'd like to do, and it's efficient, it takes the same amount of time as a car. And there are frequent services that mean that you can leave Sydney at whatever hour of the day you wish and be in Canberra 3 or 4 hours later. So that's a very good service. It's also a good service if you're flying into or out of Sydney, because that bus service links to Sydney Airport departures and arrivals. So arriving into Sydney Airport, you don't actually have to stay in Sydney overnight. You can travel directly to Canberra by bus. And when you're departing Australia, if you're going overseas or going interstate from Sydney, you could catch a bus to Sydney and then travel by plane from Sydney. And they're all very easily connected. So that system works very well.
Yeah, so there's really, there's something for every taste and every budget really in terms of getting to Canberra. So just to wrap up here, if you live in Sydney or Melbourne, you can drive. It's 6 hours, 6-7 hours from Melbourne, bit of a longer drive, but from Sydney, very comfortable.
Yeah,
easy drive, 3 hours.
Yeah.
If you're an international visitor and you're going into one of the main cities, Sydney or Melbourne, you'll be able to either drive, catch a plane to Canberra. You shouldn't be put off by that extra leg.
No, that's right. And the other thing I would hasten to add is that once you got to Canberra, I'd be recommending you do a tour with Canberra Guided Tours.
Well, absolutely.
So that we can give you an orientation, even if you have your own car and you're going to be here for a couple of days. Doing a tour with Canberra Guided Tours on your first day just gives you an orientation, gives you a sense of what you want to see. On the tour, we can encourage you to, and understand what you'd like to see and point out things to you. And then you can use your own resources to travel around the city. And, of course, if you've got your own car, you can do it that way. And there are also very convenient buses and Ubers and trams within the city to get about on those other days.
Yeah, so there you go. Thanks, Neil, for this chat. So there you go. If you're looking at coming to Canberra, there's many ways to get here. And when you get here, make sure you look up Canberra Guided Tours and do a tour with Neil.